Following the Second World War, a number of war crimes trials took place to bring those evil members of the SS or the Nazi hierarchy to justice. There were a number of people who were missing in the courtrooms, including Hitler himself, who decided to never set foot inside of one, and he would perish inside his bunker in Berlin by his own hand. But the second most powerful Nazi inside the Third Reich was Heinrich Himmler, who was the head of the SS that would command the guards and staff inside the concentration camps. It was said that many SS members were more loyal to Himmler than Hitler, which made him a dangerous foe and friend for the Führer of Nazi Germany. But Himmler would be one of those who would never be brought to justice. He was held briefly in British captivity, but he also would have his own say on his own demise. However, what is rather mysterious about Himmler is what happened to him after his death, and the location of his remains. He was buried and then allegedly reinterred, and what happened to his body is not entirely known. Join us today as we look at the missing grave of Heinrich Himmler, and remember to support our channel. Please make sure to subscribe. On the 23rd of May 1945, Heinrich Himmler died inside of British custody. He had been on the run as he found himself with very few friends and allies as the Second World War was coming to an end in Europe. Hitler had ordered his arrest, and few in the new government following Hitler's death wanted anything to do with him. Also, the Allies were hunting him, and he and a few companions decided to try and hide out. They would travel across country, avoiding towns and cities that were falling under Allied control, but near to Bremervorde, he was apprehended. Himmler gave a false name and claimed he was Heinrich Himmler, but whilst he was in an internment camp, he was recognised, and despite wearing a disguise, he would meet the commandant and hand himself over, giving over his true identity. The British could not believe that they had Heinrich Himmler in their custody and possession, and on his body they found 2 brass capsules. One contained cyanide and the other was empty. Searches were ordered, and he was then moved to the headquarters of the 2nd British Army in Luneburg for a more thorough search. But whilst here, Himmler would bite down on the missing cyanide capsule, which was inside his mouth the whole time, and within 15 minutes he was dead. But in the moments after his death, there was a great amount of frustration regarding Himmler, especially as the British had the most horrific war criminal inside of the Nazi hierarchy within their grasps, but he evaded their own justice. Himmler had an intricate knowledge of the SS, the concentration camps and Hitler's government, and if brought to trial he would have definitely been executed, but his information could have informed the Allies better about the inner workings of the Nazi Party. Shortly after his death, 2 death masks were made of his face. One was sent to Dwight Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander, and the other was kept hidden after the doctor who made it made a duplicate. His death mask shows him almost smirking, and it's strange looking at it, staring into the face of the man who committed such evil during World War II. But there has been speculation about what happened to Himmler's body after his death, and this includes a question about what happened to his brain. It's been alleged that his brain was removed by a doctor and was then sent away to assess the mind of a man considered completely awful and evil. His body was also autopsied, and it was said that the body was that of an adult male, well nourished and physique up to average standard, head average size, symmetrical, very few grey hairs were apparent. The hair had recently been cut, slightly protruding glasses, the hip of the nose is slightly flattened and deviated towards the right. The cheeks are not full, mouth not large, and no unusual features are apparent. But following this, the order was then given to the British Army personnel to carry out the burial of Himmler. Today it's considered that the burial place of Heinrich Himmler has been lost to time, and there are a number of theories as to what happened to his remains, and whether he is still buried in this unmarked location today. All of those people who buried Himmler today are now deceased, but before they died, it's alleged that 2 British NCOs who were present took the editor of a newspaper to the spot where they buried Himmler. This was kept completely secret, and the specific location was not published, due to the worry about the site becoming a place of pilgrimage for neo-Nazis to visit today. Also, the British files that document the burial site of Himmler and his final moments are closed for public access and cannot be viewed for another 23 years. It's believed that Himmler was buried at Luneburg Heath, a short distance from the site where he died, inside British captivity. His remains would have been taken on a short journey into the nearby forest, where the grave was then dug and his body was lowered into the ground. The ground would then have been covered up and returned to as close as a natural state as possible to not give any indication that a burial occurred there. There was no headstone or marker, and Luneburg Heath was where he was allegedly buried, and it's a large area of woodland in Lower Saxony. It is a very big site, which would make locating the grave of Himmler very tricky, but there was a theory that alleged that the former head of the SS was exhumed a few months after his burial. It's considered possible that the British then dug him up, and another post-mortem examination took place, due to the Allies having some element of doubt as to whether it was actually Himmler who died taking the cyanide. The results of this additional post-mortem are still classified and cannot be accessed. But to find his body afterwards, the British must have definitely known where it was. But there are some who believe that Himmler's body was taken from the post-mortem to a concentration camp which was nearby. So with this, Himmler, the head of the group of paramilitary soldiers who ran the concentration camps, in death may have been taken to a site of his own running, where some believe that his remains were then burned inside of a crematoria there. It would have been in a sense poetic justice for his remains to have been incinerated in a camp where his soldiers and officers worked and inflicted great evil and suffering onto thousands of inmates. But the problem with Himmler's death is that there are so many questions that remain today unanswered. Due to the classified files, which are still yet to be released by the British government, it may also be decades until we know exactly what happened in the final moments of his life. The grave of Himmler also remains a mystery, as it's possible that after his exhumation, his remains were taken elsewhere. It is also possible that they were quietly returned to the site of Luneburg Heath, where they had been concealed for a number of months. The questions surrounding his death are endless, and there are some questions we may never have answered. But still today, the remains of Heinrich Himmler could be lying under the ground inside of Germany, lost under decades of woodland and foliage. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.